Okay, Catherine, what are some early warning signs or red flags for the type of financial abuse that you're trying to eradicate?
Yeah. Well, it's. I guess the first thing is somebody might be questioning all the ways that you're using money. Why did you have to spend your money on that? Show me the receipts. You didn't ask me about doing that. And it starts being a bit of control and questioning about that. It can then it can get worse over time. It could also be you're really bad with managing money. You're so bad with managing money. How about I take over managing all the money in the house? Until the person who's receiving that starts to believe it and then says, okay, well, I won't manage the money anymore, and sort of starts handing over that responsibility. It's different to a healthy money relationship,
Right?
Where, plenty of people in your household, you might say, oh, actually, I don't like managing money, so you do it because the other person likes it and is better at it.
Yeah, and usually one person does have that bent of nerdy factor and admin factor.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as long as you're having a conversation about it and you agree it, there's nothing wrong with that. It's where it's actually I don't have control over how I'm spending my money. I might not have access to what's in my bank account. We can see that escalate, though, through really insidious and nefarious ways of managing money. So things like having a joint account and then cleaning out the whole account without telling the other person. Having a mortgage and not paying your share of the mortgage, or even ripping the money out of an offset account. With insurance, for some of the research that I've done, women told me that quite frequently their partners or ex-partners were ringing the insurance companies or going online and cancelling or changing their insurance policies. So one woman said to me...
So what type of insurance policies are we talking about?
Could be your house insurance, It could be your health insurance, it could be your car insurance. But quite often in a joint policy, there's two of you that are insured and one of you can operate the account. What happens is where there's been financial abuse, the controlling person might cancel or change the account, and you don't even know because the processes in the insurer, they don't tell you.
Right. Okay. So that could be a good segue. So, what should businesses, especially those in banking, insurances, utilities, why should those businesses care about financial abuse?
They should care about it because it is happening every day.
To their customers.
Yeah. And unfortunately what's happening is one customer of theirs is hurting another customer.
Yeah.
So 2022, I wrote a paper called Design to Disrupt. And that is all about, and I've now written 3 of those papers. I'm working on another one. That's all about what are all the different ways that products are being misused by domestic abusers, and then how could you redesign them so that they're safer? And so I created a framework called Financial Safety by Design for businesses to say, here's the 3 steps you need to take. The first one, understands your products are being used for financial abuse.
Yeah.
2, design them for safety. And then the third step is send a really clear, strong message that you don't want to be part of that. You didn't design products and services to be misused and to be used as weapons to control and hurt somebody else or financially harm them. And if you do that, there will be consequences.
Yeah. So I know this is the work that you do is purely the business to business play, but it's so important that we have this conversation because it brings awareness, and there could be executives listening to this who have decent sized companies who can start to think about policies. Can you tell us about the recommendations you made to some of the big banks here in Australia 3 years ago and how they've implemented the stuff that you've been working with and all your good stuff?
Yeah, thank you. Well, actually, it all kicked off for me in 2019 when I worked at Australia's biggest bank.
Which bank?
Yes, correct.
I show my age. When you say that, you show your age.
You do. It's such a famous advertising campaign, right?
Yeah, if you're over 1 million years old.
As I am. Not a boomer, though.
So
Not
am
a
I.
boomer.
So am I.
So
I got the heart of a boomer. Yeah.
yeah, I think I got the brain of a boomer. Anyway.
Wish I had the super balance of a boomer.
Exactly. I agree. Not a sandwich generation. Exactly. So when I worked at CommBank, I set up a specialist team supporting customers experiencing domestic abuse and problem gambling, actually, and all forms of vulnerability, because anyone can feel vulnerable in their life. One of my team showed me a customer that we were helping. She had received a series of deposits into her account, just 1 cent at a time. And in the transaction description was abuse, written in the transaction description.
Okay.
So your face is exactly what my face was.
Yeah, I'm just like, have you got a whiteboard and some holy water and a priest? I need to work this out.
Yeah.
So it said 1 cent that this person received, and the description just said abuse.
It had words of abuse and
sorry.
phrases of abuse.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it had
I'm
things
just like,
like,
that's weird.
No,
Yeah.
no. It had things like, so I normally use payments. If I write in the transaction description, I might write an invoice number,
Yeah,
or
or
I'd say
like
happy birthday.
Yeah, or food, dinner the other night.
Correct.
Yeah.
What we found, we analysed 11 million transactions in a 3-month period, and we found 8,000 really serious forms of abuse. And these were things like 900 messages, 1 cent at a time. It cost $9, and it was sent over hours. It was just over a period of hours. Things like, I can see you, I'm out the front, I want to kill you, I want to kill them all. Like really serious stuff. So I learned about that in 2019. We were your face was what we did.
Yeah, I'm just like, is this asshole locked away without a key? Anyway.
It's awful, right?
Oh,
it's really
disgusting.
awful.
Yeah.
We also found that lots of particularly young people will write messages in those transaction descriptions that should never be in a bank account. So you have to remember, so they would write jokes or rude words.
Yeah, I've done that to my friends.
Yeah. So banks are now seeing you.
Coke.
Yeah, exactly. So now banks are watching you and they now see that. And a lot of the bad words, swear words, are now being blocked.
Get flagged. Yeah.
Well, they actually blocked in real time, so you
Right.
can't send the words, but you can still send the money if you change the words.
Yes.
And that was as a result of my work.
Yeah, great.
And now all the banks in Australia do that. They also monitor those patterns. They send suspicious matters reports to the Financial Crimes Regulator. And actually, the people that send those messages, a lot of the banks will write to them and say, we can see you. You need to stop it. And if you don't, we'll suspend your account or we'll close your account. Yeah.
So you saw all of this data and there was actual people, and you've used one example where they were drip feeding 1 cent with 900 abusive texts, because it's likely that the person had blocked them on other communications, but they were using that to abuse.
That was some of the messages.
Yeah.
Unblock me from Facebook were some of the messages I read. So I learnt all about that. I went to the e-safety commissioner and said, what do we do about this? She said, apply what's called safety by design.
Yeah, cool.
So fast forward to 2022. I had a bit of a career curveball, and I had just left Westpac at that point for a job that didn't end up panning out. And so I couldn't get out of my head, what if we applied safety by design to every banking product? And so literally catalogued them all. And I realise I've been documenting the perpetrator playbook for the last 3 years, pretty much through my papers, but then also saying, here's the design options you can do. So one of them I talked about, financial safety by design, says send that strong message. The reason I made that recommendation is because when we sent letters to perpetrators who were sending those abusive messages, more than 90% of them stopped sending the abuse through payments when they got a letter from the bank. Are
there any banks, and we can pick on the banks for 10 minutes, are there any banks that haven't taken these steps on board after they've known about it?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
But there is
Is there movement at the station?
There's absolute movement at the station. So when I was in banking, we had many conversations with all the Australian Banking Association members and said, actually, none of us can be the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Some of them don't have the technology to be able to do all of the actions, but the majority of banks have agreed we need to monitor this and do something about it. What I would say is I made a recommendation that everyone puts into their terms and conditions. Financial abuse is really harmful. If you, we don't want to be part of that. And so if you misuse our products and services, we will take action against you.
Yeah.
And no one in the world had ever done that when I made that recommendation.
So I know when we sign up for things and, we see contracts and all that, it's half times like, yes, scroll, click. But are there things that we should look for in contract terms before engaging in new financial products? And this is probably a shout out for this world that we're living in. You might get overwhelmed with reading contracts. You could literally copy it all, paste it into ChatGPT and say, could you tell me any policies in this contract around domestic violence or financial abuse? Yes or no or no.
I love that. That's a great idea.
That's what I do. I'll get sent a contract. I throw it in chat, anything I need to look out for. and it just, I don't know, it helps. But talk to us about what do we look for in contracts?
So you used ChatGPT. I used Control F to do that. So after the first year of me making this recommendation, 13 banks in Australia had introduced terms that refer to financial abuse. And last year I launched a campaign called Respect and Protect to get other businesses to do that. There's now more than 60 Australian brands that have those terms. And we're the first country in the world to have ever done this.
Wow.
So it's fantastic
good.
Because it puts perpetrators on notice, it puts people who are misusing products on notice. We can see you, don't do it. It's like after September 11, we now see signs up at airports that say, don't joke about terrorism or you can't get on a plane.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing. So whether you use AI and ChatGPT or you do
Control F.
Boomer, Gen X, Control F. First of all, look up either financial abuse or domestic abuse and you will see it in there. And there's 64 companies, and that's not just banks. It's insurers, telcos, energy companies, water companies, education, fintechs. We've even got transport. There's a bunch of companies who've done it, and that's what I would look for.
Yeah. It's, the way you're talking, it's really good, and I think we need to do these things to protect everyone, even if there is some inconvenience. So if I had a partner and I wanted to cancel a phone contract or an energy contract, and I'm like, I need to cancel this, we need both people, and maybe you could talk shortly about the practicalities. Yes, that is annoying. But if it protects someone vulnerable, it's worth having. In the same way that I'm thinking, there's a lot of banks now, because I've been going through this just this week, they block BSB numbers to crypto platforms. Blanket block. And I tried to move money over to a crypto platform the other day, and two banks were like, no, we don't do it. But it's like, but this is legitimate, it's a pain. But I'm just thinking, so many people get scammed. It's kind of as a net benefit for society. I get it. If it's going to stop someone losing 150 grand, I'll play ball.
Yep. It's a really good point. I'm glad you brought up scams because there's a lot of parallels between the tactics that scammers use
and abusers,
yes. Right? And in fact, financial abuse is definitely part of of romance scams.
Well, it's one of the fundamental pillars.
Yeah, the social engineering, right?
We've had Tracy Hall on the show talking about her story.
She is incredible what
Yeah.
she's doing, an incredible expert and so knowledgeable
Yes.
about the organised crime that is targeting all of us. Yeah. What I would say is last year, Australians reported losing $2 billion in scams. The best data that we have is that financial abuse costs victims, individual victims, $5.7 billion a year. Why I care about it so much is because unlike physical violence, which often happens behind closed doors, financial abuse involves the manipulation of products and services and systems. It is a lead indicator of homicide because it is coercive control. Coercive control is present in 99% of intimate partner homicides. I care about it, and I want people to understand it because of the risks.
Yeah, I'll always talk about this on my show. I've personally been impacted by that with people close to me, and once you're in the thick of it, good luck. And it's so crazy.
Yeah,
it's an awareness thing.
Yeah.
And back to your point about the measures that you're putting in, and maybe we will talk about the practicalities, they could, as an unintended good consequence, could stop fraud.
Absolutely, and scams. And vice versa. The things they're doing for scams could stpp financial abuse.
Yeah. There's a common denominator here. Assholes. Hey,
consent.
Yes, and consent. we're gonna take a break. When we get back, we might get into the practicalities of how these tripwires work with the stuff that Catherine has implemented with a lot of the big institutions in Australia. We'll be back right after this. Hey, it's Glenn here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.